Okay, good evening, everyone. I would like to call the Wilmington Board of Selectmen meeting of Tuesday, October 14th to session at 7:10. I would like to apologize to everyone that we are a few minutes late. We were in executive session that ran over. All members are present, and prior to moving into the official agenda, on behalf of the board, we would like to take this opportunity to pause for a moment of silence on behalf of two Wilmington employees who unfortunately passed away very suddenly within the last 30 days. Sanford Hampton was a field operations supervisor for DPW who passed away, unfortunately, on Thursday, September 25th. We would also like to acknowledge and honor Daniel Calanton, who was an electrician for the Public Buildings Department, who sadly passed away on Tuesday, October 7th. The board here this evening, as well as the town manager in Beverly Dalton, would like to express once again our sincere condolences for their wives, their children, and their families. And at this time, I would kindly ask that we all bow our heads for a moment of silence. Thank you. Every year, this board makes a dedicated effort to support all worthy causes, and this month is certainly no different. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I want to thank all the board members as well as the town manager and Bev for wearing a pink article of clothing this evening in support of this worthy cause. In preparation for tonight, I had looked on the American Cancer Society website, and it is unfortunate to read that breast cancer is the most common cancer among women in the United States other than skin cancer. And about 1 in 8 women in the United States will develop some form of breast cancer in their lifetime. Additionally, 1% of breast cancer does occur in men. So this evening, unfortunately, this is a trend that continues, but the positive news is that millions of women are surviving this disease, largely in part to the awareness such as this month, early detection, and improvements in treatment. So tonight, as we wear an article of pink clothing, we support, admire, and honor the people and families who have been so deeply affected by this insidious disease. Thank you. Moving on to the agenda, which we will start by the transmitting of the Treasury Warrant 14, 14A, 15, and 15A. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to the approval of the minutes for September 22nd, 2014. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Yes.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Moving to our first appointment with Joseph Martinello and Julie Rosseo, update relative to the 2014 Wilmington Relay for Life. Good evening.
First, I would like to thank the town for all of their continued support for the Relay for Life of Wilmington event. I do have a plaque and also a certificate of appreciation to present to the town. Also, I wanted to give a little bit of a highlight from this past year's event. We did see an increase in teams, an increase in participation and youth participants. As an event, we raised $105,462 for the event this past year. We were in a new venue in 2014 at the middle school, which worked out very well. We were able to adapt to the new venue while still having relay feel like a relay. Also wanted to announce that Joe Martinello will be the event lead for 2015 as well. Turn it over to you.
Okay. With that, I'll just give a brief update on one of the activities that happened outside of the relay event itself. I think we spoke to you about this in the spring when we came in April to one of your meetings. So we had a survivor social in the springtime. We had 25 survivors and their caregivers attend a social at Villanova Hall. Some of those survivors actually participated in the actual event itself as well. But it gave them an opportunity to have a small, intimate event, and we had sponsors from the local business community helping provide the food for the event as well as entertainment for the event. So that's another event that we continue to have. That was the second year we've had that, and we'll continue to have that moving forward. We traditionally have it in the April-May timeframe. So we're looking forward to doing that again in 2015.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other updates? It was a great event. I'll just provide my own updates from it. Again, there were some changes to the event because of a new venue, but we tried a few new things this year. We've tried a few new things in the program in 2014, even at our kickoff event. And we'll continue to see evolvement and change in this event because the ACS continues to change as an organization. So the ACS is making large movements and trying to maximize every dollar that's donated to them. So they're operationalizing things in a way many large corporations do. So we can feel good about donating towards the American Cancer Society.
This time I'll open it up to board members. If anyone would like to make a comment, I'll start on my right.
Just to state the obvious, I mean, I get nothing but positive feedback about the event and the work that you're doing, and not only in terms of the one event, but just how important it is and how it affects people's lives. So thank you for stepping up and doing it, and contributing to the town in a very special way.
Yeah, I echo what Selectman Newhouse just said. Kudos to your committee and yourself and your commitment to a great cause, and all the work you put into it shows just how passionate you are about, and as like I said, your committee, a lot of people are passionate about this disease. And thank you.
Yeah, just the same. I feel the same way with my colleagues. I mean, you work it year in and year out. It's just not one day. I know it's planning 365 days a year, and I know there's a lot of work goes into it. You folks do an outstanding job. It's a great cause, and I know cancer's probably affected everybody in this room one way or another. So, and once again, thank you.
Yeah, it's hard to compliment or say more than already has been said. I'll just simply say that cancer, when folks find out, there's so much fear and pain can be associated with it, both in the treatment as well as the unfortunate end results of it all. But you, with your event, really have turned it into a celebration of life. And I know I've heard the various activities that go on throughout the evening. While they're somber, it's also celebratory oftentimes, and I like that it takes what is oftentimes such a negative experience and at least for a day, turn it into a positive one. So thank you for that, and of course for all the wonderful things that my colleagues said as well. Glad, Joe, that you're back on board for another year, because it's obviously working, so keep up the good work. Thank you.
And I also like to just say thank you very much. You've been doing this for years, and I certainly appreciate the partnership with the American Cancer Society, and also want to take this opportunity to recognize the town manager, Jeff Hull, and all of the town employees that really help you make this happen. And I think we certainly appreciate you having that plaque and certificate. I think it would be appropriate for Jeff to receive that on behalf of the town, since it's largely in part his efforts to support this initiative and work with his team to see that this is able to be an annual event. So Jeff, do you want to? Sure. Please. Thank you.
As Julie presents it, I'll echo what Judy commented upon, because that's something that the ACS has shared with me continuously. The support that Wilmington gives is, bar none, one of the best out of competing towns in the Northeast. So it's something to be proud of.
Right in. Go back. We don't have the official photographer on staff yet tonight, so we're going to be... Very good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So very appropriate to move right on to the next agenda item, which is once again Joseph Montanello, We're One Wilmington, with reference to We're One Wilmington program update and request to conduct the 2015 Run for Wilmington/Walk for Kim 40.
Thanks for having me back again for We're One Wilmington. I think at our last meeting we hadn't announced it officially. I think it may have shown up on a program guide, but we did change our name. So formerly Women of Wilmington has expanded to We're One Wilmington, now with a new website, onewilmington.org. And we have been spending the last year, and will continue to spend time educating people on what the change means, why the change. And ultimately it was, I would say, a name change in essence. We were so early on in the organization, it gave us an opportunity to expand it. very quickly because the organization had already been doing that, had been doing good for the community and embracing men, women, children, etc. The name did throw some people off in the beginning, so the team came together, the board of directors came together and put some ideas out there to our membership and came up with a new name for the organization. The one great thing about this, not one, there are many great things about this organization. It's not the events that we do that are fundraising events that we're known for, the Festival of Trees being one of them, and the road race as well. But it's the activities that we do that you may not know about or hear about or see. It's supporting other nonprofits. It's giving baskets to other fundraising events throughout town. So we're taking those funds and redistributing them back into town. And that's the key component of this nonprofit organization. It's an organization built on giving back to the town of Wilmington and the residents of Wilmington in some capacity. It's giving back to families that are in need, whether it be with a utility bill, helping students that can't afford to do an activity, whether it be sports, music, dance, etc. It's helping families out in those capacities as well. So it's making sure that we continue to educate people throughout town what we actually offer up for services. So we have information on our website, wilmington.org, and we continue to reach out to different nonprofits to educate them on what our services are. Just last month I was at the Senior Center for a breakfast just to give that demographic and education on what One Wilmington, where One Wilmington is, and there was a perception that it wasn't an organization that reached their demographic, and I got plenty of feedback from them, and we'll build that as we continue to evolve the organization in the future. We have over 400 people signed up online right now as volunteers, and that's the premise of the organization. It's signing up to give back 2 acts of kindness a year in the community, whether it be donating something or donating your time. So that's the foundation of We're One Wilmington. So I'm here today asking for a date for our upcoming road race in April. So we are looking to have the road race on Sunday, April 26th. Same route that we've had for the last 4 years. I've already sent in a note to the police department. I'm waiting to get feedback from them, making sure that everything's okay with any of their needs that they would have related to the event. So that's one of the reasons I'm here today, and also to give an update on the Festival of Trees is happening again December 7th and 8th. So that's another community event that we're leveraging to help fundraise for this nonprofit and also give an event to the community at a meaningful time of the year.
Excellent. Thank you very much. It sounds like you have a very busy philanthropic life, so we certainly appreciate all that you and the members of your group are doing. We have a board to consider item later on in the agenda that will actually consider your request, so we certainly have heard your request and all the wonderful things that you're doing. If anyone feels that they want to ask a question or make a comment, feel free to do so, but I just want to say thank you very much for being here tonight.
Madam Chair, if nobody objects, I'd be willing to offer a motion now out of order on the agenda.
Great. Motion's been made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Yes.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I just
Yes.
briefly, the Festival of Trees, name the dates?
Yeah, it's December 7th and 8th.
And will that coincide with the tree lighting that typically takes
Yes.
place? So it does create sort of this opportunity for community to come out and do both things. Go
Correct.
from Villanova to the Common and back and do all that, so.
That's what typically has happened in years past.
Yeah, it's been very, I've attended both, and you did such a great job with the festival, so thank you for that. And similar to what we said a little while ago about the relay, the We're One Wilmington organization, I think it's important, you said it very well, is that it's perceived as an organization that helps the other organizations. There's so many existing organizations and charitable organizations in town that are doing great work, and it's important, I think, that any members that were prospective members of those organizations recognize that what your work is doing is really helping by providing an army of volunteers to potentially supplement and make those organizations all the more, I guess, beneficial and productive. Is that a reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay. That's been my understanding of it.
A lot of organizations reach out to us for support and events, activities, and fundraising for that matter. So
It makes them bigger and stronger by virtue of having access to you and your pool of resources. So that's great. Thank you for doing that as well.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Joe.
Moving right along to our next appointment is with Shelley Newhouse, Health Director, and Doreen Crow, Director of Health Services, with reference to Heart Safe Community.
Nice side.
Good evening. Hello.
Hi, good evening. So I guess I'm going first? Yeah. Okay. So thank you for inviting us here tonight. We're very excited. So the idea of the Heart Safe Community Project was actually initiated almost 9 years ago. As I look back at my notes, I was really surprised at that. When we first implemented a public access to defibrillator program in the schools, and that was under the medical direction, and still is under the medical direction of Dr. Sullivan, the school physician, and Dr. Saccone, an emergency room physician at Winchester Hospital. So the project was based on the healthy community principle, a shared vision from community values. It addresses the Massachusetts Department of Public Health priority for promoting wellness in the home, the workplace, the school, and the community. And the goal of the project is to strengthen the chain of survival for sudden cardiac arrest. Some data. Sudden cardiac arrest affects 350,000 Americans annually. 70% of those cardiac arrests occur in the home, and 10 to 15% occur in the work setting. So the end result of our project over these past 9 years from the school side is that we now have an AED, which is an automated external defibrillator. Everybody's familiar with them now. You see them in the airports and lots of public places. But we have one in every elementary school. We have 2 in the middle school, 3 in the high school, and the athletic trainer also has an AED. We now have CPR instructors, those are our school nurses and our PE and health teachers, so that we can train staff in our buildings to learn CPR. We routinely offer classes through the Professional Development Department, which is Wilmington University. And we now, based on a recommendation from the School Wellness Advisory Council, are teaching high school students, the sophomores, CPR in the health curriculum. So we wanted to make note tonight that we were sort of ahead of the curve with some recent legislation with Michael's Law, which was enacted in 2010. And that was a requirement for all Massachusetts school districts to have an emergency preparedness plan in place. And so we had already been working on this for a while, and so we were ahead of that. And so the AED program and the public access to defibrillator program is part of that plan. And so we couldn't have done this project without funding sources. So I'd like to acknowledge that the Essential School Health Services grant from the Department of Public Health partially funded the project over the 9 years. We also received a generous donation from the Booster Club and from the Wilmington Sons of Italy. And recently, the Chenab mini grant, or the Community Health Network Area 15 mini grant, also supported the project.
So a little background on Heart Safe. Heart Safe is a public health initiative that's intended to help people survive sudden cardiac events before emergency medical services arrive. So the town of Wilmington recognizes that from time to time, medical emergencies will arise that you would need a CPR or an AED. All of these machines are used by trained personnel in all of Wilmington schools, the library, the town hall, the senior center. All of our EMS vehicles are equipped with AEDs. And roughly 20 private industries throughout town all have AEDs in their buildings with trained personnel. During the work week, that's a little impressive because Wilmington's population tends to increase upwards of 20,000 employees and residents for Wilmington. And the use of these machines is intended to maximize the chance of survival for a sudden cardiac episode. And being a heart-safe community means that Wilmington has been designated by the State Department of Public Health that we're following a set of rules and guidelines and standards that focuses on making sure that we have trained personnel with these CPR and with AEDs, and that we have them, our schools, our students, as like Doreen had said. And Doreen really did a lot of this work. I have to give her most of the credit for this. And if anyone is interested in being a part of a heart-safe community, Wilmington does offer CPR and AED classes, usually twice a year through the rec department, and most employers now here in Wilmington are offering it for their own employees. So we have some signs that you see out front that you're supposed to place 2 of them at designated spots in the community as you enter into Wilmington to say that Wilmington is a heart-safe community. And we also have a plaque that I wanted to present to the town manager, designated Wilmington as a heart-safe community. And roughly about only 600 communities that I last heard nationwide are heart-safe communities. So we should be applauded that we received this designation.
Just cleaning up with the awards tonight.
Okay, you got it.
Thank you very much. What an achievement. I mean, this literally is such a vital role and accomplishment in the town. Do you have any indication as to where that sign will be placed? Have you talked about that?
No, I haven't. I figured I'll talk to Jeff about it. There's 2 of them, so
Sure.
place them. You know, sometimes now as you drive around, you'll see other communities. You'll notice that they have them.
Well, now we're looking for them.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to open it up to anyone on the board that would like to make a comment or ask a question.
Wow. Once again, Wilmington has outdone itself and improved what a community we have. And I realize it's your job as the health director to do these things, but you always seem to go a little above and beyond in your department and do a wonderful job with everything from flu shots to clinics. And this is a 650 out of the whole country. Is pretty impressive. So kudos to you and all your staff during the year anyway. Very nice job. And Doreen.
If I could send a reminder out that this Saturday is our flu clinic from 12 to 3 here at the town hall.
That out there.
Townwide flu clinic, ages 5 and up. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next appointment with Mary July, School Superintendent, regarding the high school building update. Welcome.
Thank you. I feel bad I don't have a plaque. Thank you. I appreciate being here, and I certainly am happy to discuss the high school building project, and also just wanted to on behalf of the school department, just thank the town manager for assisting me in terms of my entry into the district. He's been very helpful. We've been able to meet on a somewhat regular basis, and he's been able to really help bring me up to speed and help me understand the Wilmington community, and as have so many others. And it's been really a fantastic transition into Wilmington. People here, and I don't have to tell you this, you know, but people have been great, and they've been very welcoming and very supportive of my efforts as I kind of ramp up into this position. So I just want to acknowledge the community as well as the town manager for their support. So I also had wanted to mention that as part of my transition into Wilmington Public Schools, I developed an entry plan, and that entry plan lays out the process that I have been using and implementing since August to really get to know the Wilmington school community and the community in general, to get the community to know the community much better. And with a specific emphasis, obviously, on our schools and trying to determine what it is that we are doing well as a school district and what are those areas that we really need to improve upon. And this information will really help to feed our strategic plan as we move forward over the next 3 to 5 years as a school district and as a school community. So I had contacted Chairwoman O'Connell and asked if anyone would be interested in sitting down with me to talk and answer some questions, some focused questions around those specific areas to help provide me your perspectives on Wilmington Public Schools and what you think that we could be, what we should continue to do and what we should be doing better. So I welcome and invite you to participate in that process. And I know Mr. Newhouse had the opportunity to attend a parent focus group, and hopefully that was a good opportunity, felt that was a good opportunity to be able to provide some feedback to me in terms of as a leadership of the school district. So in terms of the high school building project, we continue to meet as a high school building project team, which includes the town manager, and if Jeff can't make it, Kendra has joined us, but we are also joined by folks from Public Facilities, Mr. Hooper, and as well as his staff from time to time as well. So Dennis Kelly also has joined us. From the school department, Mr. Ruggiero, our Director of Administration and Finance, attend those meetings, and I have attended as many as I am able to as well. As you can see, when you drive by the building, we definitely have come a long way, certainly since I even began this job. And if you talk to the architects and the construction folks, they characterize the building as having moved from rough construction to finish work. And I know that I think many of you, if not all of you, have had the opportunity in the recent weeks to actually tour through the high school. And what you see is that a lot of the interior finishes are coming in. So we have sheetrock up on the walls are painted, you have grids for ceiling tiles in, you have casework now that's arrived, and cabinetry, and you have science labs starting to be built out, so it really has come a long way in terms of the construction. The building has permanent power. It was lit up probably a month and a half ago. All of the mechanical systems in the building are all installed, and air conditioning, heating, ventilation, and those systems will likely all be operational by the end of next month. So they will begin to turn those systems on, and that will give us an opportunity to really run through those systems and make sure that they're operating properly. So from a construction perspective, I would say that, certainly classrooms are moving on very quickly. The gymnasium, certainly, and the auditorium, which are the later phases of construction, they are lagging a little bit on schedule, but they're not as far developed as are the classrooms. But certainly that activity is moving right along as well. So you can see that a lot of site work is happening as well, and they're beginning to really have the sidewalks and the roadways are beginning to take shape as they're putting in curbing, and they'll start to lay the base coat for asphalt. There's plantings going on in the courtyard. And soon there'll be some hydroseeding and some sod placed on the baseball field as well. So a lot of work happening right now with respect to the construction itself. I did want to address as well, there's activities that are going on in terms of the logistics and the transition from the old building to the new building. The high school assistant principal, Mr. Phillips, has been organizing tours on a weekly basis, department by department. At this stage, I think almost all but a couple of departments have actually toured through the building, so they're beginning to familiarize themselves with the spaces. We felt that it was important to provide as many opportunities as early as possible and to provide multiple opportunities for the staff to really get to know the building. We're talking right now and developing some plans to be able to get the students in shortly, perhaps during what's known as their interdisciplinary block during the high school schedule. So I think that will be occurring sometime in the near future as well. Other logistical things that are happening, we have bid out all of the fixture and furniture and equipment. Those bids have all been awarded. That equipment and furniture has all been ordered, and we anticipate taking delivery of that equipment and those furnishings in all likelihood by the end of December, if not sooner. So the furniture will be able to be placed in a way that, with the building completely empty, it'll be able to be done in a rather systematic way. And we also have ordered a lot of the technology for the building as well. And our technology staff at Wilmington Public Schools is doing a lot of the work themselves. Obviously, the cabling and wiring is being done by the construction company, but the installation of wireless access points and the installation of the equipment itself, the computer equipment itself, is being done by the OIT team, and they are moving right along with that as well. So those logistical pieces are attended to. The other part of logistics that we think is important is just around how we sort of say goodbye to the old building and how we say hello to the new building. The other assistant principal at the high school, Mr. Mahoney, Dennis Mahoney, is in the process of putting together what he's calling an alumni day, and that will happen the day after Thanksgiving on November 28th from 9 to 2, and that's going to be an event that essentially celebrates the old high school. There's going to be an alumni game. There's going to be opportunities for alumni to tour the old building and sort of say their goodbyes, and some interesting opportunities for photo ops, perhaps with our mascot, the Wildcat, and some other activities that are being planned as well that I think will be a nice way to sort of celebrate the years that were spent at Wilmington High School. On the other end, in terms of transitioning into the new building, we're currently doing a lot of planning. We are first determining exactly how we're going to reallocate all of the surplus equipment that's in the building now. So anything that's usable and of value to our other schools, be it desks, tables, file cabinets, that type of equipment, we will be tagging whatever we think we might need for the high school. So we're going to reserve some of that stuff in the event that we realize that perhaps we need an extra cabinet here, an extra table here. The principals of the schools will then have the opportunity to tour through the schools, and they'll be able to tag things that they would like to take back to their schools. And we will also offer that same opportunity up to town departments to be able to reuse as much of that equipment as possible. We're in the process of identifying some possible charities that we could donate equipment to as well. There are a number of organizations out there that use specifically school furnishings and equipment, and they ship them to less fortunate areas of either the country or out of the country where those materials, that equipment could be put to good use in an educational setting. So we're looking at that as well. Anything that we're not able to dispose of in those ways, we're actually working with the town manager and town council in terms of identifying a process for disposition of any assets that have any value to them. I don't anticipate that there'll be a lot of that equipment that has a lot of value by the time we've gone through all that whole process, but that process is being laid out as well. And finally, I think the transition itself to the new high school, there's a lot of planning going into place around things like teachers getting boxes to pack up their personal materials, and how the transition will happen, and the oversight for that process. We will be bidding out relocation services, so hiring movers to assist with moving. Those bids will probably be issued sometime in early December, with a hope to have those awarded by late December, early January, so we can really work with the vendor who's selected to make for as smooth a transition as possible to the new building. So lots of planning in place. Mr. Phillips at the high school has been tagged as the sort of logistics coordinator for this move, and he's doing a great job keeping us organized and on track. So good team of folks in place.
Excellent. Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you again for being here tonight. In speaking with Jeff and planning Selectmen agendas, we both agreed that it was fitting and appropriate to have you in at a meeting in short order after the school year started. We wanted to give you ample opportunity to get off and running with the kids and secure a smooth transition for the start of school, but it was very important. All of us as board members wanted to formally welcome you at a Selectmen's meeting and say thank you very much for coming to join the Wilmington home team. And certainly we share a common interest right out the gate, which is our children, and a lot of the decisions that we make as a board are really centered not only about the community overall, but very specifically with the children in mind that reside here. So you certainly are a very big stakeholder, and certainly the administration, past and present on the municipal side, as well as past superintendents, have all shared that vision. So I know through your interview process, I'm sure it was made very well known to you right up front as to how passionate the the Wilmington community is across all areas in addition to academics, whether it's athletics, band, special education, just outside interest, community service. And I know certainly Jeff had participated in that interview process, as well as Selectman Newhouse. I'd like to thank both of them for working with you through that process. Obviously, we have a major asset that's being built right now, and we toured it last week, and it's absolutely spectacular. You can't even succinctly articulate what it looks like upon walking in there, having graduated from Wilmington High School. The one that's going to be phasing out and saying goodbye. It's quite impressive, is all I would say about that. I appreciate your communication today regarding your entry plan, and we exchanged messages today, so I want to let the board members know that if you're interested in participating in that, if you can let Jeff know, and obviously we need to be cognizant of the open meeting law, which will work through those logistics, but certainly that information has been made available today. And I'm going to pass it on to my colleagues to make comments. I just wanted to give you one piece of information. I just received a note today that some members of the community wanted to know when the building is dismantled, if there would be an opportunity for people to either purchase bricks or, and I don't want to spot you with that question, but people are interested in getting a piece of the old high school. So I think that if that hasn't already been talked about at any high school building committee meetings, if there might be an offering that people can secure, an artifact of that prior building, that would be something that some people are interested in.
I appreciate knowing that. Actually, the high school building committee is meeting again tomorrow night, and we certainly can discuss that. Certainly have some questions about what that would look like. I'm sure the town manager can be very helpful. But I know that I think when the gym was demolished, there were some process in place for allowing people to have pieces of the gym floor. I actually have a piece in my office, so we certainly have that conversation. I appreciate the heads up on that.
Okay, great. So at this time, I'll open it up to board members to make any comments, ask any questions.
Well, in terms of the update on the high school, I'm sure the town appreciates the opportunity to hear directly from you. Fingers crossed, everything seems to be on time, given the original challenges that we had, but since that point on time and on budget, that's great news. And with respect to your earlier comments and your entry plan, I just want to acknowledge the fact that it hasn't gone unnoticed how much effort you're putting in to get out into the community and to really try and engage people and understand what we think our strengths and weaknesses are, as you would outline. So I think it's something that doesn't go unnoticed by the general public, and I think it's appropriate to acknowledge it here. So thank you for that effort, and I understand it's your job, and that's what you're committed to doing, but it's appreciated nonetheless.
I agree, and thank you, and welcome aboard. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. I know it's been said, congratulations on the job. I know last week we took the opportunity, I did as well, to take a tour of the new high school, and I believe you, from the basement up to the third floor, it's like walking 4 sets of stairs, and if I thought it was going to be that much, I thought we might have had to bring a paramedic. But anyway, it was really exciting to see that. I am also a graduate of Wilmington High School class of '77, and it's really exciting to see the progress. Unfortunately, like Mr. Newhouse stated, the delay. I'm really glad to see that this project manager really seems to have it together, and he knows every single part of that building. He had all the answers to all the questions, and I think he impressed me, if I could say. And it looks like sometime during February vacation, we're going to be making that nice, smooth transition, and it really looks exciting. And once again, it just shows that it was the full support of the Board of Selectmen, the full support of the school committee to actually get this capital project going. I mean, in the past, and I really truly believe that, if you don't really have unanimous support of, say, all the parties together, and we did that with the library. I can admit I did not support the library at the time, and I knew at the time, 10 years, we'd be looking at the construction of a new high school. And I know I'm not Nostradamus, but I saw that happening, and I did rally around the support of the high school, and as we all did. And I think everybody up here did an outstanding job in supporting it on the town meeting floor. And we really needed it, and once again, I know we never met. I hope to see you again in the future, and hopefully, fingers crossed that we're going to be there. I'd love to be there that day, on the first day when that school bell rings and the kids go into that school. I want to be there. Absolutely. And it meant something. And once again, nice to meet you, and hopefully again to see you again.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
We've met a couple of times informally around the community, so I want to compliment you as well for being so visible in the community right out of the gate since you've come on board, and thank you for that. It's good to have you here for your first formal presentation to the board, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully here many more times. I have the unique, I guess, position, I think, among my colleagues here that my daughter is in your freshman year, freshman class right now, so she will be one of those individuals that transitions from the old school to the new. Really the last year that does that. So she's really excited, and after I had the opportunity last week to tour the new building, I really shared with her my observations of what an impressive structure it is. I'm so excited about the programming and the curriculum that you and the teaching professionals will deliver in that state-of-the-art facility. It's very exciting. And I also want to compliment you for, we in the community, your predecessor and Jeff's predecessor have a long-standing tradition of a very positive collaborative relationship between the municipal government and the school district, which my understanding is, and I'm only familiar with Wilmington, but my understanding is that that's not always the case, that sometimes it can be a trying relationship, and that hasn't been the case here. And it seems right out of the gate that you're embracing that collaborative nature, and hopefully that will serve the town as well as the school district going forward. So thank you for all of that, and thanks for the update on the school. Looking forward to the next steps.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, at this time, we'll move into communications, and I'll turn it over to the town manager.
First, under communications, you have a memorandum from me with respect to the recommendation for a special town meeting in connection with any acquisition by the town of the Eleanor M. Ristusha Rink. My office, in conjunction with Mike Morris, town accountant, has evaluated the financial viability of operating an ice rink based upon information gathered from communities that currently operate ice rinks, information about revenue and expenses of the Ristusha Rink, and conservative assumptions. We have developed a 20-year model that assesses the financial sustainability of a municipal ice rink operation with limited or no support from the general tax levy. It is my conclusion that operation of the Ristusha Arena could be done in such a way as to be largely self-sustaining based upon the revenue generated by the sale of ice time. Ice hockey enjoys tremendous support in Wilmington with both a strong youth hockey and high school program. Unfortunately, both programs struggle to obtain ice time at the Ristusha Rink. Acquisition of the rink will enable the town to provide both an increase in ice time and ice time that is more accommodating for youth of various ages. The town's ownership of the rink would be a great opportunity to provide a venue for one of the major youth sports in Wilmington. In addition to accommodating youth sports, acquisition of the ice rink will enable the town to provide another recreational resource for residents of all ages to enjoy figure skating and to support adult hockey programs. Based upon these considerations, it's my recommendation that the Board of Selectmen call a special town meeting to be held on Thursday, December 4th, 2014 at 7 p.m. in the middle school auditorium for the purpose of obtaining authorization to acquire the Ristusha Rink. The following schedule is proposed. The board it's recommended that the board consider opening the warrant this evening with the expectation that the board would close the warrant at 4:30 p.m. on October 22nd. The board consider signing the warrant at its October 27th meeting, and that a Finance and Planning Board meeting be conducted, a public hearing, to consider the warrant on November 18th, 2014.
Madam Chair, just as a point of order, if we could let folks in the audience know that there's a matter later in the agenda to consider that very recommendation.
Yes. I would certainly suspect that many of you are here for this discussion. There is going to be a formal board to consider item where we will actually take this topic up amongst the board members.
I also just wanted to make the board aware of our latest free cash certification. I think it's noteworthy that once again our free cash number has increased. You will recall that last year the town used $1,725,000 to purchase the St. Dorothy's church property. The new balance exceeds the balance that was in place as of 7/1/2013 to the tune of $291,718. So as of July 1, 2014, the general fund free cash balance is $14,482,657. Just continues to demonstrate the town's ability to, based upon conservative revenue projections and budgeting, to increase our available funds. As you know from last year's budget presentation, we're now beginning to take an earnest look at addressing some of our major liabilities, one of them being the OPEB liability. I would expect to continue to look to fund OPEB, establish a increased OPEB reserve, perhaps using some of the free cash balance. Additionally, to address our retirement obligations, which at last tally was about $33 million, again using free cash to offset some of that. So it's certainly a significant reserve, but it creates some opportunities for us to address some of our liabilities. Next is a memorandum from me to the board, updating the board with respect to the John T. Berry property. I received notice last week that the North Reading special town meeting voted to raise and appropriate funds for the purpose of acquiring the portion of the J.T. Berry property that is in North Reading. In speaking with the town administrator, Michael Gilberto, he advised me that in the end it was their board's conclusion to draft the motion in such a way that they would be only looking to purchase the property that is in North Reading itself. They will then be required to file special legislation, presumably in January, and seek legislative approval of that purchase. The 3 acres that remains, that is in Wilmington, at this point remains under the care, custody, and control of DCAM, and I have a call into a representative there to determine what their intentions are with regard to that 3 acres and to express the town's desire that that remain as open space and consider what options are available to ensure it remains in that state. We have a letter from Natalie Hoppel, who is the attorney that represents the Investment and Youth Fund Group. She indicates that some of the documents that we were seeking are available at the Division of Public Charities and provides the website. Much of that information we've already reviewed. Some of the information that was requested is not subject to the public records law and is beyond our ability to obtain at this point. I would also note, just as a separate item, the correspondence was not directed to me, but there was correspondence from Natalie Hoppel to the town clerk seeking a series of documents related to the rink and the looking for documents from the Conservation Commission from going back as far as 1984 through 2000, and then certain documentation related to any correspondence or communications that the Conservation Commission may have had with Joel or Bernie Restucia and James Gillis. So that request came in last week. The town clerk has is in the process of responding to that request.
If I may?
Yes.
I assume that the town manager, town clerk, and applicable staff people will inform them as to what we have and don't have, and whatever we do have, we'll provide in accordance with the request, which is what typically happens when you don't have anything to hide, right?
Yes,
that's the main point.
the town clerk, in fact, last week sent a letter to Attorney Hoppel advising her that she is in the process of establishing the cost to provide these records. As you know, under the public records law, the cost to produce those records can be assessed to the person seeking the records. So once that's established, then she'll provide that information to Attorney Hoppel, and then it will be up to her to decide whether to pursue the records further.
Okay, thank you.
We have correspondence from Renetta Thomas, who's the Assistant Director of Operations at the Alcoholic Beverage and Control Commission, just noting that they have a new staff person on. Ryan Melville is the new supervisor of the licensing department. It references the person's years of service and provides their contact information. Also, correspondence again from Renetta Thomas from the ABCC, recommending that cities and towns take the opportunity to ensure that all club licenses have the current officers and directors identified in their license that are on file. Just more of a bookkeeping measure. We have correspondence from Mary Claire Rigby, who is with the National Grid, and she's advising us about some vegetation maintenance that is going to be occurring. This activity is actually going to be taking place along a stretch of their utility corridor that runs in North Wilmington. Will impact sections of 125 and Ballardvale Street and Andover as well. Correspondence from Paul Regan, who's the Executive Director of the MAPC, notifying the board that there are 4 municipal open seats on the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and that the board, the chief elected officer of each of the 101 municipalities, has the opportunity to vote for a candidate and sets out the deadlines for that vote. The board received an invitation from Louis Semeglia, the Director of Veterans Services, with respect to the Veterans Day ceremonies that will be taking place on November 11th, 2014. He's indicating that the individuals will be asked to assemble at 10:45 at the Town Common, with activities to start at 11 a.m. And I think that I would just, yeah, they'll take care of her correspondence.
Okay, moving on to board to consider. We did take item number 6 up already, so we're going to start with board to consider for number 7, please.
The board is asked to consider the appointment of election workers. This comes from Sharon George, the town clerk, and she's recommending that the following individuals be appointed. Kay Bimbo, 20 Marjorie Road, Mary Krikorian from 3 Dublin Avenue, and Helen Ingerdahl from 3 Charlotte Road.
I'll move to approve the 3 election workers as read by the town manager.
Motion's been made. Do we have a second?
Second?
All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
The board is also asked to consider signing the warrant for state elections. Just note that the elections will consider for one senator in the Congress, governor and lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state, treasurer, auditor, representative in Congress, counselor in the 5th District, senator in general court, 1st Essex and Middlesex District, representative in the general court, 19th Middlesex District, representative in the general court, 21st Middlesex District, district attorney, and registry of probate. Also on the warrant are 4 ballot questions. The first deals with the gasoline tax and making modifications to that. The second is a request to expand the state's beverage container deposit law. The third ballot question is seeking to prohibit the Mass Gaming Commission from issuing any license for a casino or other gaming establishment. And the fourth question is a proposal that would entitle employees in Massachusetts to earn and use sick time according to certain conditions. The board is asked to sign the warrant for posting.
I make a motion, we sign the warrant.
Second?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
And the next item on the board to consider is for the board to consider my recommendation to call a special town meeting for the purpose of authorizing funds for the acquisition of the Eleanor M. Restucia Arena located at 190 Main Street.
Okay, at this time, what I'm going to do is offer some preliminary comments to the board and to the public, and then after that, I will open it up to the town manager and the various board members to make any comments. Any of you that are seated in the room that feel that you want to speak on this topic, just so you know, the public comments section of our agenda is immediately following this topic, so you will have the opportunity to be recognized in the meeting. So as has been described in the manager's memo, some of the background information regarding the potential of acquiring the Restucia rink, I just want to follow on with that by stating that earlier this year, the town became aware that the Restucia family may in fact be interested in selling the rink. The town manager at that time reached out to Mr. Restucia, who confirmed that he might consider selling. The town started doing some preliminary due diligence to determine whether or not this facility would be a viable investment for the town. This due diligence included 2 site visits to the facility and discussions with various town officials such as our town accountant, our assistant town manager, and public buildings, to name a few, and requests for information were made to Restucia. In conducting this preliminary evaluation, we obtained copies of the existing lease that is between Restucia Family Trust and the current tenant. The terms of this lease are currently extended and run through August of 2018. The lease, in effect, also includes a very important point, which is it includes a right of first refusal for the tenant through May 31st, 2015. In other words, if we tender an offer in writing, which is acceptable to the owner, then the tenant conceivably could exercise the tenant's right of first refusal and buy the property for the agreed-upon price. Given the right of first refusal, the town specifically and intentionally has not tendered an offer, and we do not intend to do so until the tenant's right of first refusal expires as stated on May 31st, 2014. Nevertheless, we have come to believe that if the town were to acquire this facility, it would generally be, in a worst-case scenario, a revenue-neutral operation with relatively modest capital contributions having to be made from time to time. If the Board of Selectmen votes this evening to call a special town meeting to appropriate these funds, It would be the first of a few different steps necessary to acquire the Restucia Arena. I reiterate, an appropriation at special town meeting would not make this a done deal. However, in my estimation, it would maximize the town's opportunities going forward. Once again, the right of first refusal, once the right of first refusal has expired. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to the manager and then to the members of the board to offer any comments or questions, or to make a motion.
I would just say, as the chair noted, discussions about this possibility began in early 2014, and it appears that Mr. Restucia is interested in selling the property. We've done some modeling of what it might, what the impact might be if the town were to purchase the rink, based upon conversations with representatives from other communities that have their own rinks, also based upon some information that was available from the Restucia rink, at least through 2005. We were able to get an idea as to the amount of money that was being generated and their expenses. We believe, based upon the information we've been able to gather, that given the demand for ice time, that this operation could be done in such a way that it would have minimal impact to the taxpayers. In fact, one of the approaches that we would propose, if this comes to be, is that an enterprise fund be set up, which is essentially an account separate from the general fund, so that money earned from the activities at the rink would go back into this fund to pay for all the costs associated with the operation of the rink, everything from the staffing to the equipment, all of the various elements. We've also included in our projections the prospect of having to make capital improvements with any facility, whether it's a rink or a school. There are going to be capital costs that will need to be addressed over the course of time. So we've also included those costs into the mix. You know, I would say that if this goes forward and if the town meeting elects to appropriate funds towards this effort, as was previously mentioned, we can't have any negotiations to reach an endpoint until after the right of first refusal expires, which is at the end of May. The other point that I think is important to make is that because the current lease expires in 2018, August of 2018, if the town were to purchase the rink, the existing lessee, Rotundo Enterprises, would remain, would continue to have the lease through August of 2018. So it's my understanding that Rotundo Enterprises has solicited a number of different schools and has arrangements for ice time with those schools. And I don't know the specifics in terms of the term of those various arrangements, but it's my understanding that they are multi-year arrangements. So for the short term, I think it needs to be noted that if the town were to purchase the rink, we would have limited ability to alter those arrangements because they were already consummated. But certainly in the longer term, it would seem to me that it creates a great opportunity to provide a facility that, as was mentioned the other night at the Yentile meeting, this is the one major sport in town that doesn't have a home field. So I think it's a good opportunity.
Thank you. This time I'd like to turn it over to the board members. I'll start to my right.
Yeah, I first of all, I think that the chair and the manager have done a great job and done the town a service in making sure we're clear on what the limitations are here going forward. By the same token, having presented all of that information, I don't think it should diminish the enthusiasm that we have for moving forward at this time and taking the first step towards seizing an opportunity. And I think that, I don't need to preach to the board. We've had discussions, relative to this issue in executive session, and I know that the board is cognizant of the demand that's out there and the real need that is, is prevalent in this town. But I think with all of that said, we should be extremely enthusiastic about taking the first step, appropriating the money, and essentially positioning the town to be a quote-unquote cash buyer, to be able to negotiate come June 1st of 2015. And with respect to the existing lease, one of the upsides to acquiring a facility like that has an existing tenancy in place is that, first of all, would generate positive cash flow for the balance of that lease term. And without getting into the details of that lease arrangement, that's a net, triple net lease arrangement, so that there is a net check every month that would be paid to the town if we became that owner/landlord at some point in the future. That also gives us the opportunity to hit the ground running and figure out the best way to operate the place if all of this comes to fruition. So, and then there's a whole bunch of, I think messages that folks might take from a town meeting vote that I don't want to get into, given some of the limitations that we're up against in terms of tendering an offer and the right of first refusal, et cetera. But, I just appreciate the comments that have been made. I think they're right on the money, and I think we need to be candid and forthcoming with the general public. But I think that it's also incumbent on us to really be enthusiastic about seizing this opportunity and take the first step. So I'm all for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, the job that you've done, Town Manager and Selectman Newhouse, have laid it all out. I'm very interested to hear what some of the gentlemen and ladies in the audience have to say. But I just want to say this, Madam Chair, you've run a heck of a meeting. You do a nice job running a meeting. It's been a very good meeting. And that's it. Very informative, very precise and to the agenda.
2 words, ditto, ditto.
Yeah.
All right.
I have more than 2 words.
There you go.
But I'll keep it short. Mr. Newhouse said it, enthusiastic. When this first came to light, or when we first started having preliminary conversations in executive session, I became very enthusiastic about the potential for where we can go with this. The issue of this first right of refusal is legalese, and I know we have to be careful about how we proceed. But if we are indeed careful, and if the voters at town meeting can understand it and can vote in favor of putting the cash and making that cash available, the opportunity in a couple of years for the entire community, and not just youth hockey, but really, it's all the way up through adult hockey and figure skating programs and public skates, and you can get your mind can start going about how the opportunity here for this community. It's very, very exciting. So one of the things in this job as selectmen, oftentimes we have the opportunity to vote on things which it's like, all in favor, we're going to vote in favor of making available the common for a certain purpose, and it's interesting enough, but it's not earth-shattering. This is one of those rare opportunities that we have as members of this board to do something truly, truly beneficial, like the high school, like I think what will become the St. Dorothy's property in future years. This is another one of those rare opportunities where we as a board and we as a town will have an opportunity to really do something beneficial for generations of residents in this community. So I'm very excited about it, and I thank you, Jeff, for sort of charging forward through the last several months, and Judy for laying it out so articulately. It is indeed very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you.
So with all those comments having been made, would anyone like to offer a motion to call the special town meeting for Thursday, December 4th, 2014 at 7 PM at the Wilmington Middle School auditorium?
So moved.
Motion's been made. Do we have a second?
Yes.
All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, public comments.
In regards to the present tenant, and, you know, as I understand it, you know, he has contracts with certain schools about certain times and all that fun stuff. Right now, the school's programs aren't running, and a lot of the time is allotted to his teams, put it that way. How would this affect that part of it?
Didn't want to interrupt you, but if you can just for an administrative item, just identify yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My name's Peter Malarkey.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you, too.
Wilmington resident. Thank you. So I didn't want to interrupt your question, but Jeff, do you want to offer a comment on that?
I think it's difficult to say specifically what the town's options are at this point with, since the existing lessee has binding agreements with various groups. You know, I think if the town is in a position where it were to purchase the rink, we'd have to look at all of those arrangements, have a conversation with the existing lessee, and really look at what our options are. I can't say right now because I don't know what those arrangements are. That's a question that will certainly be on our radar screen, but I can't really offer a lot on that one, unfortunately.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
And also, just, again, I appreciate the manager's candor, and I think it's important to tell people exactly where we're at. Having said that, I think that the important idea is that if the town were to appropriate the funds this fall and were to successfully negotiate a deal with the owner sometime after May 31st, we would be subject to their lease. We are well aware of what the terms of that lease are, and to keep it simple, the honest response to you is the tenant is the operator of that facility without any control by the current landlord. And so if we were to step into that landlord's shoes, I don't think we want to, you know, mislead anybody that we would have any contractual ability to affect the operation of that rink. And in fact, I think that the current owner of the rink would tell you that he's been absolutely uninvolved in the operations of the rink. But with that said, you know, that the term of that lease currently expires in 2018, and while we have no legal ability to, you know, to effectuate an outcome, you would certainly hope that this process being very public, you would certainly hope that the current owner, if he's going to entertain offers from us in the spring, wouldn't go extending that lease between now and May 31st. So, you know, we have limited control, but, you know, whatever we do control, we ought to take the bull by the horns, take control of it, and be positioned to do something come June 1st.
Madam Chair, I would just add that if the town ultimately is able to reach a deal here and purchase the rink, that, you know, I think it's to our collective advantage to go into this relationship that we would have with Rotundo Enterprises in a constructive manner. And, you know, there may be opportunities to the extent that we can have a productive relationship for some measure of relief, so to speak. You know, again, I can't guarantee anything, but I think it certainly it can't hurt by approaching the situation in a constructive manner.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Mark DiGiovanni from 2 Draper Drive. I'm a member of the public school system of Wilmington Youth Hockey, of Wilmington High School Hockey, and so forth. And I volunteer coach currently, like many of the folks you see here tonight. And I just want to say it appears as though this makes a lot of sense for the town. It seems like it's the right thing to do. So with that, I'd just like to thank the Board of Selectmen for moving forward with the item tonight, specifically the work that the town manager has done and the chair for making this come through. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I'm Jerry Hounsel, 7 Chelsea Street. Just have a question. If the current lessee tenders an offer before the right of first refusal, does that open up negotiations for the town to openly bid with him or make an offer?
If the lessee makes an offer now, well, in that instance, it really becomes up to the current owner, Mr. Restuccia, as to whether he wants to entertain that offer and perhaps pursue it. There's nothing, as far as I know, that bars the current owner from having a conversation and perhaps reaching some kind of a deal now with the with Rotundo Enterprises. If those conversations happen, we're still not in a position to make an offer, because again, we don't want to be in a position of triggering that right of first refusal, because whatever offer we put on the table, they could match and would be the owner would be legally bound to accept that offer.
So it doesn't void the right of first refusal? It does. If the current lessee makes an offer right now, it does not void the right of first refusal. It still exists till
It still exists. It still would be in place, and so we would need to be very cautious and probably certainly would not want to take any action to trigger that right of first refusal.
May I add something to that, Madam Chair? You know, when the town sent officials to take a look at the facility as early as March, you know, there are no secrets. I mean, the operator of the site, the tenant, had to accommodate that visit. So, you know, can the operator, like the tenant, like anybody else off the street, come in and offer the owner whatever they think the market will bring? The answer is yes, and there's nothing that we can do about that. But that reality has existed since before we even started this process in earnest. So, you know, if nothing else, to my way of thinking, this brings the town's desires to the forefront in a very public way that can only help. I mean, you know, it's not a couple of town officials talking. It's town residents showing up to cast a vote and appropriating funds. So I think that may not be a direct response to your question, but it strikes me that that's the next logical thing to talk about. Is we can't control what we can't control, but that situation exists no matter what we do.
Madam Chair, I would also just add, with respect to why now, certainly your point is well taken that at the moment any offer could be tendered by anybody, and the owner could pursue that. The fact that he hasn't, I think, suggests that there's an interest in working with the town. But certainly there's a measure of time being of the essence here. And from my perspective, from a budgetary standpoint, it's helpful for me to know, as this budget process begins, whether or not this is a project that we're going to have to fund, as opposed to, for example, waiting until annual town meeting. So that's really why we're looking to pursue this now, both from a timing standpoint and just from a budget planning standpoint.
Yes.
For
44 Bowell Street. I don't mean to drag the meeting down, but how did this happen? When that rink was originally built, it was for the kids of the town. It was built for the kids. Ben Mastusha Senior, who's now passed, it was, I'm not sure, but it's written somewhere that he was giving the rink up for the town and the community of Wilmington. I don't know how we got stuck into, ended up buying it when it was originally for us.
Yeah, if I may, without taking a half hour to answer a question that probably takes 2 hours to answer, the bottom line here is that a lease.
A fortune on the rink. Rotunda's now making a fortune on the rink. We should have been recouping all that money all along. All along.
Yeah. To answer your question as directly as I can, a lease, a triple net lease between a nonprofit that was comprised of directors who had to meet qualifications and who were intended to be representatives from various Wilmington groups. That board of directors was the board of directors that served for the Wilmington Arena Authority, Inc. And that nonprofit actually operated the rink for many years. That it wasn't intended to be, nor was it a town facility, but you're absolutely right that it was intended to be a community facility under the care and custody of a nonprofit that represented various stakeholders. We have endeavored to find the corporate records which support changes to that nonprofit that have occurred over time, and we've been stonewalled in our efforts to try and get that information. So I couldn't agree with you more, except I will say that putting that history behind us, one upside is that the town has continued to receive real estate taxes on that property for those years. So, at least we, in order benefit of some real estate taxes based on the operations there. If we proceed with this, it sure does give us a great chance to hit the reset button and to make it right. So, that's the best I can do in a short amount of time to give you the abridged version. But the answer to your question revolves around the administration of the nonprofit entity that was charged with the care and custody of that rink.
Is what you're saying.
Could I just make a quick comment? I believe longevity means something. Some folks may not believe longevity means anything, but back in 1985, I served on the planning board, and I remember where Sonic is, to let everybody know, there was a car dealership, and I remember Ben Restuccia pulling up in his green Shelby, and he brought Mr. Broadcaster, Kurt Gowdy. I'm kind of saying I'm a little bit older than some of these folks in this room, but anyway, brought him out there, and we talked about how he was going to build this ice arena and how it was going to be for the kids. I mean, I'm just giving you a little history of what's happened, and I was actually there to see this, and I heard it all for myself. And everybody in the planning board was very supportive. People in the town supported it.
And I thought for sure this was the greatest thing. We had the twin rinks back in the day. I was born in this town, and when we were getting a rink, I was pumped for it. I coached these kids and had to ship them to Lowell to coach them. And then when the rink came in, great, we have a facility here. And then, slowly but surely, somebody started making more money, and then we get totally bumped out of the system. And it's just a little aggravating, that's all.
Something happened.
Yes.
George Linnebrook, on the street. I just wanted to ask a question of clarification. Maybe I missed this. We're going to be asked on December 4th to vote to appropriate a sum that's uncertain to buy the rink because we can't tell how much we're going to pay for it because we're going to destroy the deal. Is that my understanding?
No, there will be an amount that will be, a not-to-exceed amount that will be included in the motion of the article for the special town meeting. And that, by providing that information, that in and of itself will not trigger the right of first refusal. We will have that information. Certainly, we can't expect, and we don't expect, that people are going to sign a blank check.
That was one of my questions. And then, in the interim, after this, if this process goes forward, there's going to be some other kind of a group or committee formed that's going to, between now and August of 2018, some entity is going to, or some system of management and operation is going to be agreed upon? We're going to form some kind of something to run this place?
Yes, certainly one of the elements of this, if the town acquires the property, is that we will determine the best approach to running the rink. I know, for example, Burlington contracts with a vendor that comes in and runs the rink. Stoneham has a different arrangement. Reading, they modeled their arena authority after the original Wilmington Arena Authority, so there's a few different models here, and that's one of the issues that we'll be looking to address.
Thank you.
Doesn't that end up to them to know how much you're going to spend on the rink? Once you come up with a number to appropriate funds for the purchase of the rink, doesn't that show them what you're willing to spend?
It's a public process, so the short answer is yes, but I don't view that as a problem, and I can't really say a whole lot more, but...
Your point is well made. I mean, we're not in a position to release that information tonight, but at some point it will come out as part of the process. I think what I'd like to accentuate is that through any sort of process, we have to try and strategically place ourselves in an agile position to be ready on June 1. And in the municipal world, we have to go through a certain process, which is a meeting like tonight, then we have the finance committee meeting, and then we need to go, to the special town meeting. So it's a long process. But your point is well made. The opportunity, if it presents itself, it's going to come quick, and we need to be poised and positioned to be able to take advantage of that. And the best analogy I can give you, from a residential standpoint, is when you go out to buy a piece of real estate, you have a mortgage pre-approval. We're trying to come up with a town commercial pre-approval, which essentially makes us a cash offer, so that we're standing at the door first in line, and we're letting everybody know in advance of that we intend to be first in line when the time is right.
With cash in hand.
Correct.
No, because there's a difference between, what the current tenant may have to offer, right? If we go in there with a stack of whatever and say, because that talks.
Madam Chair, if I could just make a point here. This is a little bit different than the situation that we had last year. You recall that we were contacted by the Archdiocese. They were indicating they were looking to sell the property next to St. Dorothy's. That process, worked a little differently because we were able to have those negotiations and reach, a tentative arrangement early on, and as a result, we could be more forthcoming in terms of the amount earlier on in the process. One of the dynamics that is different here is that in this particular situation, we have this right of first refusal piece, and so that's makes it a little bit more complicated. But in the end, we will be prepared by the time we go to the Finance Committee public hearing to advise the public as to the amount that we are seeking, an up to amount.
If I may I speak, Madam
Yes.
Chair? And I hope I don't say things out of sequence, but an alternative was at one point to wait until June 1st and create a real offer, but at that point it would then be subject to an approval of a subsequent town meeting. So we wouldn't be a cash-in-hand bidder. So Mr. Restucci would have to just understand, well, we think the town's going to be on board with us here, but we have to schedule some future town meeting to get the money. So by really putting it now, even though we can't create an offer, it does that cash, it puts us in a position on June 1st to execute and act quickly, right? Is that reasonable?
It is reasonable, and instead of, and I say this respectfully, certainly the town manager's role is a number one in running the operation of this town, and you have a 5-member board of selectmen. I think it sends a stronger message publicly, negotiation-wise, when you have 01887 backing this whole project, and you have the forces of the people in the community. And, I'll say it right out there, hockey is a unique culture in and of itself. If you get all of the workhorses and the power that you guys have with figure skating and all the adult programs, it's going to be a wildcat train coming saying that we want this rink. And so, we're trying to unify an effort to put it out there that this is what we want to do, and we have an earnest desire as a community to acquire this asset. It'd be tough to say no to the whole town, in my opinion. Yes.
My name is Tom Dalton, 10 Suncrest Ave. First of all, I want to reiterate some of the things that were said and say thank you all for taking this seriously. I know earlier, Madam Chairman, you mentioned about how Wilmington's all about the kids, and this clearly shows it right here. This rink for the kids who play, not just hockey, high school kids, figure skaters, is really important. Someone also mentioned passion. Obviously, that comes into consideration here. It's kids and passion. To me, I've been in Wilmington for 13 years, and that's what I feel this community is about. So just want to say thank you all for, and a few Mr. Dalton, for looking into this. To color it a little bit, I think, obviously I'm a Wilmington coach. To color it a little bit for those that might be, reading this on Patch tomorrow, real quick, I'm not going to drone on, but it's been a situation in my 5 years as a coach where I have 2 young boys who play hockey right now. They're 10 and 9. We've gotten less hours each year, and the price of the ice that we have to pay for goes up every year. So getting squeezed from both sides. We as a youth hockey organization are growing and expanding. Our lowest age level has 75 kids in it right now. So it's a very passionate sport in the community, and the kids are involved. But at some point, if nothing's done, then that's going to go away. So even just looking into the rink like this, it's an amazing opportunity, and I just wanted to say thank you guys for doing that. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Yes.
Mark Colucci, 60 Agostino Drive. Again, thanks for everything you guys are doing. This is tremendous. This is the first push that we've seen in years. I've been in this program for 6-7 years. There's a bunch of us here that serve on the board of directors for Wilmington Youth Hockey. Not saying it's just for hockey. There's plenty of people that can take part of it. Figure skating, to name just one of the other organizations that's going to be able to enjoy this. I think we need to look forward. A lot of people keep dwelling on the past. Why didn't we do this? Why didn't this happen yet? Right now, we can look forward. And a lot of us that serve on the board of directors, we're not doing this just for today. We're trying to build a future for hockey. And this is, I think, what we're being able to do right now. Things might not be an immediate impact like you guys have been saying, but moving forward, there's a bright future if this happens, so we do appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other public comments? Okay, we'll close that section of the meeting. We'll move on to new business and committee reports. Starting to my left. Please.
No committee report. May I speak off the cuff just slightly? A few moments ago, town manager went through the ballot for the election and read through mentioned some of the questions. And all I want to simply do is really just encourage residents. We all receive in the mail the pamphlet that goes through and talks about what the questions are, the questions 1, 2, 3, and 4 this year. And there's a couple there that are impactful, more so than I think in years past in some cases. And all I simply want to do, I say to my colleagues and everyone here in the room and anyone listening, is please just avail yourself of the information that's in that packet from the Secretary of State's office and familiarize yourself with the questions and develop a position on them because the way that those votes go will indeed have an impact on the quality of our lives directly. So I just want everyone to take them specifically, seriously, more so this year than maybe they have in the past. With regards to the arena, I'll just simply say, start now making sure that folks block out the time for the special town meeting and come out and be there in force. Let's cast a nice big vote. But thank you, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Mike?
Oh, I'm good, Madam Chair, thank you.
All set.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just again want to say what a wonderful meeting you've run. I'm very proud to be a part of this board. I'm proud of the work that we've got done. We're elected officials that we listen to the residents of Wilmington. This is an extremely important issue. And I don't understand some of the negativity that you would expect, Mr. Lingenfelter, that we are going to go to town meeting and ask for a blank check, or we're going to have to set somebody up to run this.
I was going to follow that with a question. There was going to be a second vote.
I was just going to say the negativity that we're going forward. Someone's interrupted me, Mr. Lingenfelter, okay? And it's rude.
Oh, it's an attack.
I would like to just say thank you all for being here tonight, showing how passionate you about your sport, and willing to stand up here and represent the children of this town and have your voice heard. So again, thank you all for being here, and thank you, Madam Chair, for running a pretty eventful meeting, pretty good meeting.
Thank you. I'd just like to offer just a quick update, which is relevant this evening on the Yentile Farm Development Committee. And so last Thursday, we had a public forum at the Wilmington Middle School auditorium, and we were able to have our third public session to close the public input process regarding input to the development of that parcel. A lot of the highlights, some of you that are here tonight were at that meeting. I'd like to thank my fellow board members for being there. And we presented a plan that was a revised version of the plan. When we had some preliminary cost estimates, the project came in at about $6 million. And it, based on past practice in major projects of this size, it was felt, based on the prior conservative budget style of the town and all the other various projects that we have going on, that $6 million, quite frankly, was just too high of a price tag. So a subgroup effort was done to try and revise the plan, and essentially how that was done was we were looking at cost, we were looking at compatible uses, we were looking at the topography of the site, we were looking at maintenance, and a lot of other items such as parking, to name a few. And we made an effort to try and reduce the plan to a $4.5 million level, and also set a conservative goal of a minimum of $1 million in private funding and grants as a potential to raise money towards the project to bring it down to a manageable size of about $3.5 million. In order to get the site workable, to make it a blank white canvas, if you will, it would probably take anywhere from $1.2 to $1.5 million in site work between drainage, working with some of the isolated wetlands, taking out the existing foundations, doing all the necessary work in terms of lighting and landscaping and whatnot to get it workable for the project to be built. And I'm excited to say that we have gone through that process. We've taken the feedback. We're going to have our next committee meeting on October 22nd to finalize the concept plan. I want to let you all know that it's at a concept level. It's just to talk about what will actually be at the site. Some of the highlights, just so you know, would be to have a multi-purpose turf field with lighting, also to have a quite sizable playground, to have a hard surface for basketball and street hockey. And some of the things that were taken off the plan were due to expenses I indicated, but also not compatible uses. These have not been finalized, but this was a suggested revised plan, so I do want to let you all know it's not final. It will go back to the committee to be thoroughly reviewed. I just want to get right out in front on this regarding the dog park. That was one of the items that was taken off of that site concept plan, as well as the community gardens, but through the work with the town manager and with Michael Woods, who is our DPW supervisor, we're looking at alternate location for that, and it would be down in the town park area that we're looking at, and we're certainly not committing to anything, but looking at that to see if there's a means to provide that. So it's been very clear through this public process as to what the town needs and wants. The rink was one of the items that came up. Unfortunately, that evening, we were not able to comment on the information that has been unveiled here tonight. So we certainly, that's one example that came out of Yentile that we're already trying to address, and certainly that's not the first time that we've heard that. But I just want to say, you know, personally and as a member of this board, that aside from just the dog park, but just even the community gardens, expect me to try and come back to you as sitting selectmen to try and rally some support for this dog park and community gardens, because those were two areas that, you know, people were pretty passionate about, but it just didn't make sense. Like I said, it's not finalized, but the recommended plan that we put forward, we felt that we needed to look at some adjacent areas to be able to accommodate that. So I'm not making any commitments that those two items will take place down there, but we are trying to work on those two endeavors as well. So once again, I want to thank everybody for their support. I want to thank the manager. Can't tell you how many hours Jeff puts in to try and make all of this work. It's not a Monday through Friday 8 to 5 job by any means, and it's he's trying to work with the Board of Selectmen, with his department heads, and with the community at large. And it can't be overstated how complex the role of town manager is, and this project is just another major item on his to-do list. So I want to thank him for working with me on this, and it's been a learning experience and a productive one at that, but I'm really pleased with the work that the committee has done and how the town administration has supported this project as well. So in totality and in summation, we have a lot of exciting things going on in the town of Wilmington, and all of you out there are a big part of what goes on. So thank you for the efforts that you all do as well. Thank you. Important dates?
Yes, I'll just pass out this came in late today, but important dates. We've got the High School Building Committee meeting that's coming up on October 15th, tomorrow evening, 6:30 at the middle school library. Also, October 15th is the last day to register to vote in the state election. Town clerk's office will be open until 8. Brush drop-off also on the 15th, Old Main Street, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. October 17th, the Carter Lecture Fund presents Soundscape and Troublesome at the Wilmington Middle School, 7 p.m. October 17th and 18th, just passed out this little flyer from the Historical Commission about the Haunted Woods, which will be an exhibit taking place over at the Harnden Tavern, 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. on both of those evenings. As was previously mentioned during the meeting, October 18th is the town-wide flu clinic, Town Hall Auditorium, noon to 3 p.m. October 18th is another brush drop-off, Old Main Street, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Once again, the Yentile Farm Development Committee meeting is the 22nd, 6 p.m. here at the Town Hall in Room 9. October 22nd also is another brush drop-off, Old Main Street, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. October 24th and 5th, again, is another opportunity to get haunted at the Harnden Tavern, 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. October 25th, brush drop-off, Old Main Street, 9 to 4 p.m. October 26th is the Horribles Parade at the starting at Rotary Park, 4:30 p.m. Next Selectmen's meeting is October 27th here, beginning at 7. Then October 27th through November 29th is the time window for collection of yard waste. October 29th, again, is another brush drop-off from 8 to 2 p.m.
Okay, that brings us to the close. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Good night, everyone. Thank you.